Joel, the what the Yankees pivot to. I'm not going to ask you to lay out the plan, but the concern is a little bit here for us as Yankees fans. I'm getting a repeat now, flashbacks of 2015. McCann, Ellsbury, giving them onerous and ridiculous contracts that tie you up for years because it's, you're spending that money and you end up spending that money on free agent players that aren't good. So how does Cashman and company put a plan together to Hal and say, these are high impact players because there are free agents and trade options here that we can lay out, that we feel that we can improve this baseball team and get back to the World Series?
So something to keep in mind, like I know the Yankees offered $760 million, but they're not going to probably spend $760 million this offseason. The way to think about it is the Yankees were willing to spend $47.5 million. In this marketplace, that isn't going to go very far. The idea that that's somehow going to buy 5 players, that's not happening, right? So I think they're going to have to get a little creative. Can they get somebody to take on most of, say, Marcus Stroman's contract? I think that they're very open about Nestor Cortez. I wouldn't be surprised if Jose Trevino was traded in this marketplace to just kind of create a little more money along the way for them to do some other stuff. But if you're looking at what the cost of pitching is, consider like what Luis Severino got, right? Like, so just imagine, what is Corbin Burns going to get? What is Max Fried going to get? So the Yankees would have to think about going to 325, 330, whatever. And yet the flip side of that is what? Like, should they just say, okay, play Ben Rice at first, play Jason Dominguez in left, play Caleb Durbin at second, like sprinkle, like refix the bullpen again and roll it out there and try to win 88 games and get in the playoffs and look at it again in July? Because I do think one of the problems they have is they have traded so much from their system over the last 3-4 years that it's not a very strong system now. So they really have to buy it. It's why, look, they're not going to probably do what I think they should do. But, and again, look, it's for another show, but even in the offseason, they don't see part of the problem of the team the way that I expressed the problem of the team all season, right? They kept trying to quarantine and say they had a bad game 5 when we watched them play like shit all year, like in certain areas of baseball. And I think they have to emphasize baseball players. For example, Christian Walker's a really good baseball player. He's a really good baseball player. He isn't perfect because he's a pull hitter, right-handed pull hitter at Yankee Stadium, but he's a really good baseball player. He's in his mid-30s. He's going to cost a lot of money now because he knows the drag up from Soto is going to do it, but he's a good player. I understand the injury risk on this player, but Carlos Correa is a really good baseball player. If I'm thinking about somebody who can play third base as a supplementary player, I think Cody Bellinger's a good baseball player. And I would think of stuff like that as a way to try to say, how can I just be overall as good as possible depth-wise? Like, I would notice the Dodgers keep getting better. I think Michael Conforto is a good supplementary player. I think Blake Trinan is proven he's a good relief pitcher, and Tommy Edman was brought back there. And it's like, yeah, they did this thing at the top with Blake Snell, but they keep also improving the depth of the team.
Yeah, their complementary pieces are extraordinarily good.
Yeah, and I think the Yankees need to find a way to kind of deepen up here, but deepen up in those areas which they would disagree with me.
Right, they have that arrogance, the Yankee arrogance.
Or they have a blueprint of what they think is important. And by the way, I think it's important also. If you hit a 3-run homer, your chances of winning are extraordinary. Like, I get it. The most important, valuable thing you could do in the sport is hit a multi-run homer. I get it. I understand the philosophy of it and the value of it. But there's no reason why you can't be good at both things. I would stay away from Pete Alonso. That's me. I think Pete Alonso replicates the Yankee problem as opposed to solves it. And I think Pete does that thing. He hits, as we saw with Devin Williams in the postseason, he does a thing that could change a game like that. But he clogs the bases. He's right-handed. I actually think he's a little better defender than the metrics and his reputation. because he's
But
very
he's
good.
slow and he's
He's
unathletic, though.
right. And I would think that like the best 6 years he's ever going to have, he's just had with the Mets, and you're going to be dealing with decline over the next few years. I, I, I know it will be unpopular with Yankee fans because they will like shiny objects, but I would think about just bringing in now. You've lost the chance at the great player. There's nothing that looks like Soto in this marketplace. So I would think about like, can I bring in as many really good players as possible? And remember that you're starting with Judge and Cole, who, if healthy, and those are big question marks, they are really great players. I actually think Luis Gil has a chance to be a really good starting pitcher in the major leagues. That Clark Schmidt could be good. That Luke Weaver has a chance, if that's who he is, to be special. And like I would think like that a little bit is maybe do I take a chance on Tanner Scott, try to build up my bullpen with the big lefty guy and power guy. I just think tying up long-term contracts now as a kind of pivot. Remember, when the Yankees didn't get Ohtani, they pivoted to Stanton. And I know that fans feel great about Stanton right now because of what he just did in the postseason. But in general, that has not been a great deal for the Yankees. Like, you forget all the times where you're like, oh, God, he's hurt again, or he's like in one of those like 1 for 30 with 15 strikeout periods. And they
And
would have been
ultimately,
better.
he clogs up that DH spot that Judge
And he
needs days off on.
clogs the payroll, clogs the DH spot, messes up the roster. And by the way, he's really good,
Yeah.
but like it doesn't work perfect. And I think the worst thing they could do is be like jilted at the altar and then react by overpaying Corbin Burns or going too far for Max Fried or overpaying Santander. Like I think the key now would be, hey, you still have a lot of good players. I think that the Rays are going to take multiple steps backwards. I think the Blue Jays are a mess. I'll believe that I get it. Everyone's talking up the Red Sox prospects. Let's see it. Let's see the Red Sox win for somebody this offseason also. Like, the AL East might not be the beast it's been. And I think the Yankees could think of it as try to get as many good players as possible without screwing up your near future. And look, they have to do a little better with their farm system and hope that there's a year of growth here that allows them to bring some people through. Look, the season is different, right? Like, here's a way the season's different. As you know, I'm not a huge Jazz Chisholm guy, but Jazz Chisholm could be a 30-30 player, right? He has that skill set. Jason Dominguez might be able to be a 20-20 player even in the first year. Is there another 10% of growth for Volpe and Wells? Like, that's a lot of potential improvement in that group of players right there. Do you get it? Usually that doesn't work out. And by the way, the Yankees haven't been great at development and certainly sustained development. There's been a lot of like Greg Bird up and down. There's been a lot of Gary Sanchez up and down, Miguel Andujar up and down. And so I would need to see that, but I think they need that. I think they need Spencer Jones to take a step forward and Roderick Arias to take a step forward. And for this all to look a little better internally, because otherwise they're going to screw up their near future, right? Like Cole and Judge are starting to gray a little bit here. And they have to think about what tomorrow looks like. And I would not overreact. Steve Cohn is going to be part of their life for a long time. And by the way, Juan Soto is going to be part of their life across the RFK bridge for a long time. And
it's going to hurt.
Making a bunch of rash decisions will not change those facts, but could make your life worse in the Jacoby Ellsbury, Brian McCann, Giancarlo Stanton kind of way. When the Yankees, and again, I know how unpopular it is with their fan base that always wants more, big names, but there is no second place to Juan Soto. So now the pivot to me is add as many good players to deepen your group as possible. And, like, this is the infrastructure. hope your infrastructure knows what it's doing, and that your minor league system with 12 months of growth is ready to produce even more.